Hi, my name is Anna Carpenter. Thank you for choosing to learn about BenShahn. He lived from years 1898 to 1969. Let's flash back in history about 70 years to the 1960s.
Hi, my name is BenShahn. I was superior at artwork and I've thrived in that area since I was 8 years old.
You are known for your artwork and photographs. However, do you have any other main interests?
Yes, I do. I wrote a book called The Shape of Content. I also was preparing to be a doctor because I had a desire to know about anatomy, not the practice itself. I was born in Lithuania and immigrated to the U.S. There I went to NYU, City College of New York, and the National Academy of Design. I love to travel. Twice I went to Europe and North Africa to study art.
Have any main artists or teachers influenced your work?
Not as much as one would think. I was once told that art doesn't concern itself with anything except the material. At first I went by this, but quickly I began to discard the advice. Unfortunately, I could never find a hardening teacher. I had one teacher that came up to me as I was reading a book on Cézanne, and he tore it out of my hand and threw it across the floor. He said, "Why do you want to read this stuff about people who cut their ears off?" He confused him with Van Gogh. Not only was he an artist, his work is in the Metropolitan Museum.
You are considered a social realist of the 1930s and have so much to be proud of. You were part of the New Deal arts projects with your wife, Bernarda, shared a studio with Walker Evans, helped Diego Rivera with the Rockefeller Center frescoes, have worked with the WPA in New York City on prohibition, worked on a piece in the Bronx post office, was a Norton professor at Harvard University, constructed the famous Sacco and Vicente mosaic mural at Syracuse University, and created a mural for the Social Security building. Can you show me some of your artwork?
Yes, these are some of my most favorite and most famous paintings. This mural I did in 1936. I was hired by the Farm Security Administration, a New Deal body, to photograph the American South. This photograph shows it hung in the Roosevelt, New Jersey.
And this mural, the Jersey Homestead mural, what was so special about it?
This is the biggest fresco painting I ever did. It was made up of 3 panels and was 12 by 45 feet.
What idea were you trying to portray in each panel?
In the first panel, I tried to depict the arrival of mainly Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe and Germany working in factory sweatshops. One of the immigrants was my mother, then Raphael Sawyer, Albert Einstein, and Charles Steinmetz. The second panel shows the same people moving out of the sweatshops and involving themselves in the trade union movement. I painted John L. Lewis and David Dubinsky standing in front of a crowd in the Triangle Sweatwaste Factory giving a speech. In the last panel, I painted numerous men sitting around a blueprint of Roosevelt, all planning the development of Roosevelt's factory and farms.
You have also been known for some of your great photography, not only for the FSA, but also for pictures of prisons and street scenes. What pictures do you think are most important to you?
This photograph I call Facing Both Ways. It captures grandeur and humanity.
Many people think it's one of your most famous or important photos. It's called Saving Ohio. What were you trying to portray in this photograph?
I took this picture in the Depression era in Ohio, and I hope that it preserved the humanity sense of time for posterity.
What events of your past do you think altered your work?
I had a rather traumatic childhood. I went through brutal incidents of religious discrimination and political terror. Convo, the city I grew up in, was about 30% Jewish, and most of us lived in the same area. Whenever we went through the non-Jewish areas, we were harassed and chased in the streets by Russian soldiers. The soldiers would often drink and become violent towards our community, smashing windows in shops and homes. Because of this, I had an ingrained lifelong identification with the victims of tragedy.
What are some examples of your work that show this?
When I did the painting called Six Witnesses Who Bought Eels from Vanzetti, I envisioned a group of Balabustas from Convo from my past childhood.
What about your work called Sacco and Vanzetti? This painting is known to have a deep relationship to your struggles and upbringing and is one of the best examples of American social realism. In the painting, you see 2 men, Sacco and Vanzetti, in open caskets in front of a courthouse. There are 3 men standing over the caskets and a judge in the window of the courthouse in the background with his right hand raised. This painting is known for its strong vertical elements and its muted color palette. Does this painting connect with times in your life?
Yes, it really does. Years ago, my wife Bernarda told me if Sacco and Vanzetti had been Jewish and socialist, they could have been members of my family.
What kind of work were you working on before the Depression, and how did it change after the Depression?
Well, ever since a young age, I have always worked on my art, so it wasn't my profession that changed as much as the content of my art. When the Depression started, I traveled to Pennsylvania, Delaware, and 10 southern states to take photographs of poverty resulting from the Depression.
Why was it that the government employed you?
The government originally employed me because they needed artists for their propaganda campaigns against Hitler and the Nazi regime. These artists would create posters and artwork that would inspire American citizens to contribute to the war in any way that they could. I was one of these artists. However, I only did 2 pieces. This is Nazi brutality, and we French workers warn you, defeat means slavery, starvation, and death. I ended up leaving the OWI, which was the organization that hired me, because I didn't see eye to eye with a lot of the imagery produced by the agency. They also did not like a lot of my work because to them it was too violent or not appealing enough. I think the OWI wanted artists to make art that reminded Americans how they could contribute, but I wanted to make art, not advertisements.
Would you consider the relationship between you and the government successful?
The government and I had an iffy relationship because my paintings were known for being too violent or not appealing enough. I don't think the government really understood the messages I was trying to convey through my artwork. On one hand, I wanted my art to be aesthetically pleasing, but on the other, I also wanted to deliver them a message. I feel like the government only wanted aesthetically pleasing art, so I tried to find a medium between the two. On some of my pieces, I felt delivering the message was more important than creating a beautiful and pleasant image. So some of my pieces did not appeal to what the government wanted.
I find it interesting that looking at your paintings and your photographs, they compare in the way that they all deliver an important message or theme.
Yes, I always thought the real beauty of art was in the message that the artist was trying to deliver. Obviously, I also want my art to be beautiful to the eye, but also to the mind. I worked as a photographer for the FSA from 1933 to 1938. I produced images of impoverished rural areas and the people living in them. I later used my photographs for paintings. However, I was criticized because people thought that this diminished the value of painting.
After learning about one of the greatest masters of the 20th century, would you like to learn more about arts, politics, social issues, or economics?